So when we log into new CourseWorks, we see a listing of the classes that we're either teaching or taking. And this view is unified with new and the current CourseWorks system. So you can see that all the classes that I have listed out here have this little new icon next to it, except for this one English course down here. And that means that basically all of these classes that I'm helping these faculty members with are in the new CourseWorks system. But this courseworks.columbia.edu is still the front door for all CourseWorks classes. So your students and you can continue to use this to get to your courses. So when I click on one of these links to a course website, it's going to take me into the new CourseWorks system, and this is what it looks like. I am currently today going to be using, I think it's this site, which is going to be the place where we'll sort of play around with new CourseWorks. And when you log into new CourseWorks, your site should look vaguely like this, if it's been turned on. If it has not been turned on yet, that's something that we can take care of with you today. We can enable your course website so that's ready for you to go for the spring of 2012. So the homepage, when we first log into the new CourseWorks site, the homepage is slightly different than the current CourseWorks system. There's an options button up here at the top, which allows us to take a look at the content of the welcome page, or the home page in this case. And this is where I can put in instructor information. So I can just begin to type in here. This phone number that I'm writing down is my actual phone number, and that's my real name. And here's my email address, if you want to write that down. My phone number is 212-854-9640. So editing the home page is as simple as clicking on that options button and then clicking on the update options, and that'll save that information. This is where you can put information about meeting times, TA contact information, special sessions or events or things like that you want to sort of be prominent on the home page. Generally, we're recommending that this is a space for that sort of general meeting information. So slightly different than the current CourseWorks homepage. Now, there are a number of new tools. If we go over into the site settings area, we'll notice that we have a whole bunch of options along the top. The site settings area is sort of the control panel for your course website. And the first thing we'll take a look at here under the site settings area is the Edit Tools tab. And you can see that there's a lengthy list of tools that are available to you in your course website. I'm going to turn on several of them, but I'll also take suggestions if folks want to see something in particular. We'll take a look at the announcements section and assignments here certainly today. We'll turn on the calendar. The resources tab is already turned on. We're going to turn on the syllabus as well. Is there anything else that folks are really curious about?
Gradebook.
Gradebook. That's a good one.
What's that?
Is there a discussion board?
There is. There's several ways to do a discussion board. I'm going to turn on this discussion board. And the Gradebook is a space where you can deliver grades very easily using either an Excel or comma-separated value sheet to put up students' unis and points for
does this now
assignments.
upload Excel in a nice, friendly way?
Sure does, yeah.
Okay.
This is much
Could we
improved.
also-
And you can see there are several other tools here. We'll come back and take a look at some of these other ones in a little bit. I'm going to confirm these new tools, and then we can see now that they've been added to the left navigation here. At any time, I can go into the page order area, which is the second tab here, which will allow me to move items up or down in this list. So if assignments is very important, I can take that to the top and shut the site settings down here to the bottom. And then when I save that, those items should change in order. This is also a place where you can rename tools. So if you want to call the discussion area, talk amongst yourselves, whatever you want to call it, you can rename those tools to other names. So those items have changed their order. The Add Participant space is a place where I can add new members to the course. Before the session, I tried to go through and add each of you into this course website as students so that you're able to sort of see how it acts as a student. If I missed your name, let me know, and I'll add you in here. So I'm going to add each of you as students, and then when I continue here, it gives me a list of the folks I'm going to add, and then I can finish this. And now we have a complete roster in the course website. And then finally, we have these other tools to manage groups. This is where you can set up study groups or groups who have specific presentation interests or things like that, and they can get separate communications, separate files, separate evaluations and exams and things like that. So the grouping feature is very similar to the way that it works in current CourseWorks, but a little bit nicer feature. It's easier to set up groups and things like that. All right, so the site settings area is all set, and we've turned on several tools, and we'll run down these in some sort of order. I want to first take a look at the files and resources area, which is probably one of the most improved areas inside new CourseWorks, and a space where you can share files relatively easily with students. So we'll take a look at the resources tab here. And you can see I have an empty folder in which I can either add items or work on the folder under the Actions tab here. So if I go to Add, see that I have several options here in terms of how to add new items to the folder. The first thing that I'm going to do is set up a new folder. And in here I'll just put a Readings folder. All right. And I might make another folder called something like workshop files. Okay, this is a place where students can put files that they want to share with their peers in order to workshop in the classroom. And I'm going to create that folder as well.
So students can upload themselves documents to it, but you have to authorize them?
It's like you're a plant, JC. I put him here to help me segue into the next topic. So when I look at each of these folders, I have now the ability to sort of change the actions on these folders. And one of the options is to edit the folder permissions. So it might be, in fact, that the workshop folder is one that students should have the ability to create new files in. Okay? So I'm going to allow them to create new files. And I'm also going to allow them to revise their own or delete their own files, right? So this is so that they could put up new versions of a file if the one that they turned in at midnight on Monday is not as good as the one they had finished at Tuesday at 8 a.m. So this permission element here allows me to open up this folder for student writing. And you'll see this all when you log in. You'll see that you have an add button next to this folder, but you won't have an add button next to the readings folder because you're a student. You have the student status in the class. Okay, but I, as the instructor here, can go to add, and I could add a web link to a New York Times article, or I could add an HTML page in which I copy and paste the text from a Word document, for example, or I could just upload a file directly. So if I do this, I can choose the file from my desktop. I think I want to replace that. Try again. And I can go to the readings folder here and put up reading 1. Inside the readings folder, I could put subfolders for weeks and things like that. And it's relatively versatile. There's also an option here when I go to any of these files or folders. I can go to Actions. And I can look at the details for any file. And when I go in and look at the details, I have many, many options here. Okay, I can say that it's available to the public. So I have a web address down here at the bottom. If I copied this, I could send this to my mom in Detroit, and she would be able to download this file if I turn this on so that it's publicly viewable. I also have dates when I can show the file. So if I'm delivering data sets or something like that, and I want it only to be available in the 3rd week of class, I can just set this up beforehand so it sort of does time release on these files. And then I can also, when I post a new file, I can email all of the students in the class. So this was, I think, your question about how do I email my students in the class, send out these email blasts. Is that your question? Yeah, sorry. And this is one way to do that. So I can do a notification here, which is a high notification to all participants, and that will send out an email to everyone in the class saying, there's a new file in your new CourseWorks site, here it is, enjoy, that sort of thing. So this is one way to communicate with students via the notification. So I'm going to update this file. This file is now public, and that web address that I copied in my clipboard is something that I could then send to anyone in the world. There,
Why would you want your, I'm sorry, this is the first time I've used this. Why do you want your files to be public?
It's not public in the sense
public
that
for your students.
Public for your students. Well, it's public for your students. Anyone who is a member of the course website can get to these files. This is if you had a guest lecturer or you had someone who needed to have access to these files who was not a member of the site and you wanted to send them a few links, you can do that. I'm just pointing out that in this case, in the current CourseWorks system, there's no way to send a link to a file. And there's no way to make a file public in the current CourseWorks system. This does allow us to do that. One of the other things that this system allows us to do is upload and download multiple files in one fell swoop. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on this except for to point out that there's this link up here at the top which has documentation about how to do this. And basically what you do is you take this web address, and depending on the operating system that you're using, you copy it. You go to your Finder, and you connect to a server. And when you do this, you're able to provide that web address, your uni, and then it mounts that as a drive, essentially, on your desktop. So these files that we have on the desktop of this computer, I can, at this point, come in here and take these other two readings that we have and drag and drop them over into the readings folder. Now this doesn't work terribly well on OS X, on Mac, but on Windows XP it does. And there's also a little client, a little WebDAV client you can download for free. It's called CyberDuck, cyberduck.ch. It's a Swiss company. I don't own stock, but I do recommend the company as a good tool to use to upload these types of files to your course website. When we come back over here, let me see if those files actually did go up there. It looks like reading 3 did. So your mileage may vary if you try to do this on a Mac. On Windows, this does work considerably better. So are there any questions or comments about that?
I just have one question. When I was teaching university writing, the students often had to post their essays or their drafts.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wished I myself got a notification when they had uploaded something.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way for them to do that with the new course?
We can take a look at that. And in the assignment section, I think that there is a way for you to get a notification when students upload a file via assignments.
So Dropbox, for example?
The Dropbox, there is a Dropbox feature inside here which allows you to have students set up a portfolio, essentially, of all of their work. I don't think there are notifications on the Dropbox, though.
I see, because I had a paper due at noon today. I was have to go in and look to see who got it in.
Yeah,
that's right.
Notifications
Yeah.
means email.
An email notification, exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we'll do a little bit of digging on that and see what I can find.
Yeah.
So the files and resources section is I think much improved over the current system. There are a lot of new tools. I do want to point out something I'm going to do right now, which is if there's really one thing you leave with today, let it be this. The reset button at the top of any of these pages is a way for you to get back up to the top of this section. If I click on that, it's going to basically reset this section and take me right up to the top of the page. Okay. And if you're ever lost or why am I in this part of this page, the reset button is always a good button to hit and sort of get you back up to the top. Okay. So the resources section is a great place to not only email your students with those notifications, but also to collect files and to deliver them to students. And as I mentioned, you can also get the web addresses and collect a whole bunch of files and email those out to students if you want to do that too. The announcement section is another place where you can email students. It's also another place where you can manage files. So I have a colleague who says there's 8 different ways to do something in CourseWorks and there's 3 right ways. So I'm going to show you another way to add a file and another way to communicate with students via email, essentially. And this is the announcement section. So if I click on the add button here at the top, this is the example that I always use during workshops. It's sort of inappropriate today. It's beautiful out there. I was going to put a screamer horn in here, but I don't think I can even spell it. So this is going to the go to members of the site. It's available now, and again, I can time release this if I want to. I can add an attachment, so I'm going to choose that Reading To file. You'll also notice that I'm using a Mac. I'm using Safari on a Mac. It's sort of the worst case scenario in terms of browsers and content management systems. And yet I have all of these editing tools up at the top of the window. So new CourseWorks supports what you see is what you get editing. And now I can also let everybody in the class know. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to let all of you know via email that we have a snow day today. Since you're all students in the class, you should receive an email in the next couple of minutes. And so when I add this announcement to the site, not only are you going to get an email in your inbox, this announcement appears in the announcement section, and it also appears on the home page. It sort of unifies everything right up onto the home page. So when students log into the course website, they're going to see a running list of all the announcements that you've put up. You know, exam time has changed, or there's a review session this Thursday, or whatever it is you want to tell them. You can put that right in the announcement section, and email them, and it shows up on the home page. Okay. Yes.
When they're going to click on it, so today it appears because today is the snow day.
That's right.
Would it also appear in advance, like in anticipation of it, always in this calendar? So
it will be there the moment I put it up, because I had it live there. But if I wanted to announce our Met tour, for example, and that's going to be in March, I could set it up so that it'll make the announcement in late February, anticipating the event that's going to come up in March. So I could set up all of my announcements and time release them over the course of the semester in the first week if I wanted to. Okay, I see some nodding, but I also see like maybe some looks of consternation or confusion. Any questions? No? All right. So let's take a look at one other tool here, which also appears on the front page of the course website here, and it's the calendaring section. The calendar, which appears right down here on the right side of the page, appeared since I turned it on, and if I go over here into the calendar, I can add a new event just like I would with the announcement section. Okay, I can say what time this is going to happen. Hopefully not 6 a.m. Whatever you want to tell the students to do on that event, you can do the frequency as well. And again, here you can add attachments. So if we had a map that we were going to use for the Met tour, I can attach that to this event. So now when I save this, it becomes an element within the course calendar. This also appears on the home page. You can see that we have this event on the 14th. So it's a place for students to get an idea of what's going on in the class over the course of the month. Now, at this point, I do want to sort of take a step out of the course website and also begin to we'll look at the assignment section, then I want to give you a chance to sort of get in here and get your hands dirty with this a little bit. But I want to take a step out of the course website to go over to this My Workspace area, because it's an important and very different tool than what's currently available in the current CourseWorks system. And you'll notice that all the announcements that I have for all of the classes in which I'm a member appear in this unified panel on the My Workspace. So that snow day item is right here at the top because it's the most recent announcement. And then also down here at the bottom, I have a unified calendar of all of the things that are happening in all the calendars of all of my classes. So it's a nice way of sort of bringing together all of my stuff into one portal. So that Met Tour event that's happening today is here, but also these academic calendar items that I imported into another site are there as study days. All right, so this is a nice tool for students to use to be able to sort of get an overview of all of their work.
Yeah, got a different display. When I brought up the calendar, it filled up the screen with all the by week or by month. It wasn't over on the right-hand side like you.
Right, so when you go into the actual course site and you click on calendar, that's going to fill up the screen like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the home page, once we come back over here and we reset this or reload the page entirely, this calendar on the home page should be there as a little widget on the front page. Okay. Yeah. So the calendar is a place where you can sort of see the whole view. This is also a place where you can change the view to a list of events and look at all the events in your course site. And this will give you, it's a list of one, so not terribly exciting. But this is where all of the sort of lectures or lab field trip events that you have for your course would sort of come together in a long list for students. Questions about calendar?
Actually, it's showing the 2011 calendar on here, even though I'm looking at the next semester.
Oh, your next semester. It's going to show today's date. I mean, it's going to show it from today forward. So you'd want to be sure when you go in to set up these events that you're choosing those future dates to add the things in there.
Okay.
There are some nice tools in the calendar here to import events from Google Calendar, from tools like Ical or Outlook. If you use any of these calendaring systems, you can set up your course calendar in there and then export that information and bring it right into your course website. There are also ways to do subscriptions. So if I wanted to, I could use this export tab here to set up an Ical Export and bring this calendar right into my desktop calendar tool. So if I go into calendar here and subscribe, I can paste that address, call this demo site. And now when I bring this in, that MET-Tour item is here in my desktop calendar. It would also be on my phone or any portable device that I use that subscribes to these sorts of calendars. So it's a nice tool if students want to sort of bring all of their academic work into one location that they use on a daily basis, the desktop or mobile calendar. I will use the reset button now to get back to the top of the calendar. And there's that MET-Tour event. Any questions about the calendar? A lot of stuff you can do with this. The folks up at the Medical Center are actually moving their class plans into the calendar. They've sort of agreed that it's a good place for their students to get an overview of their academic work. And so almost unanimously, the faculty members have agreed to do their class plans within the calendar so that students can get that overarching view of their weekly schedule. They're also very highly scheduled uptown. Sometimes classes meet 2 or 3 times a day, so they need that overview.
So sorry, so then they would use the calendar, you mean instead of the syllabus, effectively?
As a supplement to it. So the syllabus really is sort of, in their view of it, is the course overview, the objectives, the requirements, and grading policies and things like that. So they list all of that stuff out in the syllabus area.
Scheduled, like the readings for today, all that goes onto the calendar.
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's nice about the calendar is that you can attach certain events to the calendar. So the next item that we're going to take a look at is the assignment section. And when we add a new assignment, one of our options here should be towards the bottom is to add this to the schedule. So when you add an item to the assignment section, which we're going to go through now, and then I'll let you play with it a little bit, this is where you can also add items to the calendar. So let's go ahead and do that. So this will be assignment 1. Assignment. Accent. And so this assignment is going to run it on noon today until next week. I'm going to allow a little bit of leniency and allow folks to turn it in until the 23rd, but it will be marked late if you do turn it in late. I'm going to allow students to turn in inline assignments, so they can type their answers into the web browser, or they can attach a file. You can change this so that you only allow attachments. For example, if you have an Excel sheet that's a data set that you want them to manipulate and then turn back into you can do that. Or you can just allow it inline. Some folks want it printed out and handed into them, and that's the non-electronic option. So I'm going to allow both of these. I'll grade this item on a 10-point scale. To do is type a few words. This is our typing assignment. And I'm going to add this to the schedule. I have some other options here down at the bottom, and this is also where I could add an attachment of the original data set, for example, if I wanted students to manipulate that, and then I can post this. Now when I do that, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make the assignment live. So it started about 35 minutes ago, and is available for the next week and change. I can also go over to the calendar, and if I take a look at next week, I should see on the 21st that assignment 1 is due. All right, so it does unify these elements together. So at this point, what I'd like you to do is take a moment to log in at newcourseworks.columbia.edu, and you should see this course listed in the top, in your list of courses. If you do not, let me know and I'll make sure that you're on the roster. So it's like CourseWorks.columbia.edu, but new at the front.
So it shows up in red like this when it's an assignment?
Well, you can tweak that. So
Right.
you can set that so
Right.
it shows up as green if you'd like. But yeah, that's how it should show up.
The admin is.
All right, so as an instructor, I have a slightly different view. You all can see here that I've got 11 new assignments have come in. I think that's a pretty good return rate for the first 7 minutes of having an assignment open. And you can see assignment 1 is here. I've now got this option here to grade the assignment, or I can see that I've got 11 items in and 11 of them are new. So I've got my work to do at this point, right, as the instructor. So I can click on this or the grade button, and it'll take me into the list of items that have come in. So, Tony, I'm not picking on you in particular, but I'm just going to pick the first one on the list here. And I can see that the item has come in here. All right, Tony fulfilled all requirements. Yes, you did. 3 is a few, right? So I can then give Tony the maximum grade. Now at this point, if I felt like it was maybe not quite up to par, I could allow you to resubmit, give you a 7 and say, resubmit this before the due date, and then you could work on a little bit more and resubmit it. So I've got this concept here of workflow. I can give you the assignment, I can receive the assignment back, and then I can give you some feedback and also allow resubmission at this point.
Is there a limit on the number of resubmissions?
I think you can really continue doing this until the due date comes. If you allow resubmission, you can even push the due date back. The other thing that's nice about this is if you do multiple submissions, and this goes to your question, is that you can get multiple drafts. So you can give them the original document they can turn in their first draft. You can download that document. You can make changes to the document, upload a version of it. They can then download that. They can make further changes and upload it again. You can really hand this document back and forth and see all of the different versions right here in the assignment section, the history of the assignment. Yeah.
Is there a limit on the size of the of what they write in the assignment?
I think that it's if I'm correct, I think it's around 5 blue books worth of text can go into the inline area. But if they attach a document, there really isn't much of a limit. Yeah, I mean, I think 50 megabytes is in.
Oh, okay.
For individual uploaded files, I think are 50 megabytes. And if it's text, we're talking about Library of Congress here, or a segment of it. So if they're uploading PowerPoints or something with a lot of images, they might begin to push that limit a little bit. Or a video file, for example. So I can now, I've graded this, I can return this to you, Tony. You should be able now to go in and see that assignment and the feedback that I've given you. So I can go on to the next student if I want. This is me. I'm not going to grade myself. That's Michael. Didn't submit it. Doug, you submitted it.
Yeah.
Okay. I can give you some feedback, and maybe a 9 on this one. You can handle that, I think. And so I'll return that. And so that you can see how this works. Basically, you can run through the whole roster, providing feedback and giving grades on the individual items that have come in via the assignment section.
And I got an email saying I submitted it, so students would always get an email.
Right. That's probably a function of how this is set up, how we've set up this individual one. And you, as an instructor, may get an email that says, 11 submissions have come in, and this is where we want to look at the settings on notifications to make sure that you're not overwhelmed with email in a large class. In fact, that you maybe get a digest at the end of the day may be the way to do it. So we can sort of help you find those settings and tweak it. So are there questions about the assignment section? Because I think this is one of, when we think about things that are new in new CourseWorks, this is one of the features that is fundamentally, I think, different. It's that workflow. It's that handing stuff back and forth. Other questions about assignments or the things that I did to get that set up?
I mean, I guess I know what the answer is, but if what I do is to give 4 or 5 topics, and they have to pick one and write an essay on it.
Yep.
I mean, that would fit this perfectly, I guess.
It certainly would. There are other ways to do it. Again, it goes back to the sort of 3 right ways. And we talked about a Dropbox, for example. One of the tools that's in here is called Dropbox. And so what you might do is, in fact, put in your syllabus, week 7, your 3rd essay is due, and give them a time. And then the students would, rather than using the assignment section, would just be able to go and drop a copy of that essay into the Dropbox. You would see the Dropbox folders, and there are little stars on ones that are new. So you get a visual cue to say that there's something in this folder for you since the last time you've been here. And you can go in there and download that copy of that file and read it and provide feedback to the students directly inside the Word document, for example. So that's a perfectly viable and reasonable way of doing it as well. And this may go back to your question about moving these assignments around. If you set up 14 assignments, right, and for some reason you forgot election day or something like that, and so you need to move everything back, you need to go in and change the dates of all 12 of the subsequent assignments that happen after that date. So if you use something that's a little more freeform, like the syllabus, for example, and the Dropbox, those dates, those date constrictions don't sort of apply, right? So keep things like that in mind when you set these up.
And in the Dropbox, the comments to a specific student would only be visible for that student, right? Not all users.
Right. The Dropbox. It's important to note is that the Dropbox is a portfolio for you and the student. Okay. And unlike the Dropbox in the current CourseWorks system, the students can't see into that folder. It's a little bit odd. So when they drop something in, it's almost like they slide it under your door. They don't see it anymore. Okay. In this Dropbox, it's more like a portfolio, and students can see that stuff that they've turned in, and you can see it as well. So you can post up a second file that has all of the comments in it, or just a text document that has overall comments to go along with it.
When I was teaching UWP, we were forced to invent a portfolio for each student, like add it to the system. Does that still happen here, or is it you bypass that through assignments? Or?
You really just go into site settings.
There's still a portfolio there?
Just go to Edit Tools and turn on Dropbox. It automatically creates a folder for every student in the class.
It's the same feature.
It's a very similar feature, except for that students can see in their own folders.
Okay. So
it's a nice element that the current system does not have. So when I go in here, I'll see a listing of all the students. So one of the last couple of items I do want to sort of go into, and I mentioned a moment ago, was the Syllabus Tool. And this is a really flexible tool. You really can do whatever you want with it. And as I click on this, the Create Edit option here at the top, I have the option to add a new item. So at this point, I could do a number of things. I could put in a date. So I could do 1/21/2012, right? Intro. Or I could do Unit 1. So whatever I wanted to do, if I wanted to have 4 sessions here that are the major units we're going to cover over the course of the semester, I could do that. If I wanted to have individual class sessions, I could do that. If I wanted to just put it in one long document, I could just go to the top of this page and put in syllabus, and then copy and paste a Word document into this space here. If I were to do that, if I had
copy and paste, or can you browse and bring up the file?
I could browse and link directly to the file as well. So I could say something like this. I could say download syllabus. And when I do that, I can highlight this word syllabus and link. I'm just browsing the server here. And I'm going to go to the workshop files folder. Sorry, I have nothing in there yet.
I have a syllabus on the desktop too.
Okay, we'll do that then. So let me go up to the top level here. So notice what I can do here is I can choose a file from my desktop. I can upload this, and it becomes an item in the top level folder of our site, and then I can just link directly to that. So it's going to that syllabus RTF file, and when I say OK, I can just say download the syllabus, right? Or, so now what I could do here is I could go back to my Finder and find this syllabus file. Copy the whole thing. I'm going to use a tool here which is a way of cleaning up text that comes into the site. So I can use this paste from Word option here to take this and paste it in here. And I can now I have a slightly cleaner version, but it still holds on to some of the formatting. It held on to the font. It'll hold on to bold and italics and things like that. But it also removes a lot of the code that comes in from Word if you copy and paste it directly. So there's a couple of different options of how to do this.
Can they print this syllabus from that window?
Let me just save this. So when I post this, you notice I had a preview option there as well. That I had this option here to save a draft. If I have sessions or information I don't want to go out to students yet, I can just save it as a draft, and it'll hide those items from students at that point. I'm going to show you a couple of other techniques for hiding things in a moment. So just to point that out. But if I post this now and I refresh the syllabus, I have this lengthy document here, and there's a print button here, which opens it up in its own window, and then it can be printed by students for high-resolution, portable, battery never dies reading. Yes.
Using the current CourseWorks, I make a syllabus, and then I put the links to the readings in the syllabus. I enter something for each day, each of the class. That you could do as well.
Absolutely. So we could go in here and create a new session. We could add a session. We could do week 1, right? And I could come in here and do reading 1.
And then put a link to the...
Yep. And then I can highlight that text and use the link tool to browse the server, find my readings folder, and then link to reading 1.
Nice.
I've linked reading 2 to reading 1, but that's, you get the idea here. And then I could save this, post it, and then we would be able to even change the order of these items if I wanted to. And then when I reload this, I can see I've got week 1, and then I've got this link to reading 2, which actually goes to reading 1. I think I'm confusing everybody. I should just stop. But you get the idea. So there's that way to make links directly to folders as well. All right. So I mentioned a couple of ways when we were in the syllabus. You can save things as draft, but there's also a way that you can sort of hide the thing entirely if you want to. That's actually over here in this page order space where we just renamed files. We can turn the lights out on any of these items in the list. Right, so if we want to use the Gradebook as simply a place where we record our grades and the students never even see the link, we can just do that. We can come down here and turn the lights out on the Gradebook. Right, we can turn the lights out on the calendar or the announcements. We can really sort of hide those links entirely from the left navigation. And so when folks are delivering exams, for example, I have a professor in the chemistry department who turns the lights on the exams when there's one there, and then turns it off when there's not one. So the students don't get confused, and they don't try to go in and take the midterm if it's not ready yet. So he just leaves the section off until it's ready to go.
So turning the lights off means to make it invisible to the students.
Exactly. So if you all refresh your browsers as students, you will not see the Gradebook link anymore. Right? It's something that just won't be there. Yeah.
So the assumption is everything is accessible first, but then you have to decide what to hide?
Yeah, that's a good assumption to make, is that the things you put up are accessible to students unless you either hide them or turn the lights off or set it to draft. Okay. Yep. So any file, for example, we can do the same sort of thing.
Can you explain the difference between hiding and turning the lights off?
The turning the lights off, so if we go into site settings, it makes the section, like the Gradebook button, invisible. The button does not exist at all in the left navigation.
Okay.
So students can't get to it.
Okay.
If you hide something, though, so if we have a syllabus session that's in draft mode, they may see that there's an item there, but they don't see any of the content of it, right? So they may know that you're working on the syllabus, but not what is actually there.
Okay.
And then there's even another option that we have, and this is in Files, where we can go to any item and edit its details and hide the item. Right, so this basically will show up to you and the TA and another instructor in the class, but it's not visible at all to the students. So if you've got a version of your syllabus, you're still working on it, you don't want to have students see it quite yet, you can just make it invisible, you can hide it. And you can see that it's hidden because it's gray. And it also, it's right, so it's slightly different than the other files. Yeah.
And you used to have the option to see it as a student?
I do, yeah. And so as the instructor, I have this option here in the upper right-hand corner to switch my role and to take a look at the site as a student.
Okay.
Okay.
Actions, nice.
So I showed how to not only hide sections, so you can hide the gradebook entirely. You can also hide individual sessions in your syllabus, for example, or individual files in the files and resources as well. Another thing to point out here, back in files, is let's say that I am working on, I'm in student mode now, so I can't see that, right? I can't see the syllabus file. So I can exit student mode now. Now let's say I'm working on my syllabus file and I've made some changes to it. I can go to Actions, and I can upload a new version, right? So that link that I made from the syllabus section to this RTF document will still remain, and it'll still be valid, even if I upload a new version of the file. So I can go to my desktop, choose the new version, and then upload this new version, and it'll just write over the old one. So this is a nice tool in the new CourseWorks system that allows you to replace files that maybe are sort of in development. And students can do this as well in the workshop folder that we set up. Remember, we set Revise Own. They can then use this Actions tab to revise their own files that they upload inside the workshops folder. Okay, so a nice little feature there. Now the last thing I want to show you is the ability to further customize the left navigation. So we changed the name of resources to files. But one last thing that we can do here under Site Settings is we can add another tool called Web Content. Now I can, in this space, I can say Columbia Library. And here I could put call.columbia.edu. I don't know if that's actually the address, but I'm going to just put that there. And so when I do this, it's going to add a new item to the left navigation, and when I click on that, it's going to show that web address inside this window here. So any website that you want to put into that space, you can do that, and it'll be a resource that's added to your left navigation. You can also turn the lights out on this, because it's like any other tool inside your website. So you can add a bunch of resources that you're going to use over the course of maybe 4 or 5 weeks in your class. So you may want to add the Met website a week prior to your tour, so that it's there as in the left navigation, because students may be going back to it frequently in preparation for their tour. So think about that as a place to add new items. What is also true about this is, since anything in the new CourseWorks site is directly addressable, any file that you put up, you could add that file to the left navigation as well. So if you want to make HTML pages inside your course website, you could link them up to the left navigation. So course policies or any website that you want to create inside your site, you could just link up to the left navigation. So there's a lot of options there in terms of customizing your course website. And these are the types of things that Michael and I can certainly help. The one section we didn't get a chance to talk about was the other one is the Gradebook. Just to show a quick example of how this works, and this goes to your question about importing comma-separated values. There's this import grade options. It provides a template for you. And when you edit this template, open this document here. I can now I can put in a new assignment here. Put some points on it, and I can give everyone in the class a grade. Okay, everybody did solid B work on this one, and I don't want to do this one, so I can delete this item. And now I've got a version of this that can go back up into the website. So if I save this file, and I'm just going to move it to the desktop so I can locate it easily. And if I go back to my course website, I can now choose the file from the desktop. And import the spreadsheet. Now what it'll do is it'll recognize everyone in the class and ask me, is this correct? And at the bottom I say OK, and everyone gets a grade. So if I go back to Gradebook items here, I see assignment 3, and everyone's gotten their 8. Now at this point I can put comments on that item. I can also see who did what when. Right, so it gives me a log as well. So if you're working with TAs in the class, you're able to sort of see which TA gave that grade and feedback as you go through.
You can put a comment on each grade that you get.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And this can be done in the upload as well. So if you're running down the roster, you can have another column called comment, and that'll allow you then to put comments in directly into the Excel sheet, and then just upload that all in one fell swoop. So it's quite simple to do.
And it does all the calculation of if you put in numbers, it calculates.
That's right. If you want this to be included, so if we go back to the beginning here, we can see that this has been released to students. So if you all look at the gradebook, if the lights were on in the gradebook, you could look at it. And then it's included in the course grade, and this is true as well. So you can edit this item to say, show it to students, but don't include it in the final grade, right? So maybe it's a practice exam or something like that, but you want to give them a graded result, but you don't want to have it included in the
An
grade.
individual student can only see his or her own grade, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool. There are some, in terms of, you can set up weighting. So if you want to have one item count as a certain percentage of the grade, you can do that as well, and use the same scale for each item. There's also letter grading. So if you want to use the A to D grade scale, you can do that and assign your own curve to those items as well. So there's a lot of options inside the gradebook.
Is there a file size maximum to upload, or can we upload, say, like a big media file, like a whole film?
I would say go easy on that. I think
Yeah.
there's a 50 megabyte per item limit.
Okay.
And you also have, in any course website, you can see I'm using a whopping 48K of the 10 gigabyte limit in the site. So if you're hitting up against a 10 gigabyte limit, we'll probably want to chat and see what's going on. But also you can request a rise in that if you need it. That tool I showed you, the WebDAV tool, will allow you to upload files larger than 50 megabytes. I have not tried, gigabyte files yet, but you probably could do it that way.
And since it seems like if you set it up really well, you're going to do a lot of stuff in advance, and can you then migrate all that for your next year?
That's
so you don't have to do it again?
It's a great segue. In site settings, there's the ability to import from a site. So you go to your next semester site, you turn on the tools that you want to use, and then you can import from multiple sites using from this site the syllabus, from this site the files, from this site the assignments. You can bring things together from multiple places if you want. There's also migration from the current CourseWorks system to new CourseWorks. It's like moving house. Things are going to be different when you move things from current CourseWorks to new CourseWorks. So you may want to set up an appointment to come in if you have a complicated site that you want to move. But the tools are available inside the current CourseWorks system. You have the option to migrate content, and then to use the new migration tool to migrate from current to new CourseWorks. Okay. All right. We covered a lot of ground. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Feel free to stay. Michael and I are going to be here. We'll help redirect your courses if you want to set up something for spring. We'll help you think about migration. We'll talk about syllabi, whatever you want to talk about. So thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.